On this episode of the Peregrine Dame, it's finally time to say goodbye to Tula. I'm Rachel Parsons. I travel the planet largely alone in order to get a truer perspective of this amazing globe. No distractions, no itineraries. Up close and personal. Amazing. And I'm ready to show you that traveling solo doesn't have to be so scary. As a rule, I don't go on tours for this show, as that sort of defeats the purpose of traveling solo. People. Hate people. But once I was introduced to the Earth Organization and its founder, Lawrence Anthony, I knew it would be worth going out to see what his eco-safari tour is all about. The Earth Organization was founded in response to the obstacles that Anthony found when he went into the Baghdad Zoo in 2003 to rescue the animals that had been abandoned. And his book Babylon's Ark recounts his amazing journey through the rescue and rehab of the animals of that zoo. As part of their fundraising for the Earth Organization, Anthony and his staff host guests on 8-day eco-safaris at his private game reserve in Zululand, just outside of Richards Bay, called Tula. The Earth Organization eco-safaris include at least 2 lectures on U.S., South African, and global environmental concerns as part of the package, and one is usually given by Mr. Anthony himself. Usually. When you come down to a game reserve that's run by a conservationist-cum-celebrity like Lawrence Anthony, there's a pretty good chance that you're not actually going to be able to see him. Unfortunately, on this trip, he got called to London at the last minute because they're making movies about him. Good for him. Too bad for us, because we really missed out. But today, we've got one of his old right-hand men, and if you've read The Elephant Whisperer, you will recognize the name. Brendan Whittington Jones is going to give the conservation lecture today, and we're going to be able to sit and talk with him for a couple of minutes afterwards. Brendan was one of Anthony's right-hand men for years at the reserve and in Baghdad, and we're lucky to have him come by today. So what kind of a surprise was it when Lawrence Anthony called up and said, "Hey, I think I'm going to go into Baghdad, and oh, by the way, can you come along?"
It was actually his son that brought up the idea. I mean, we were all in the same area at the same time. We were all up at the house at the top one. And his son mentioned to him, said, well, just out of a joke essentially, said, well, why don't you go to Baghdad and try and save an animal, save some zoos, whatever, you know.
Right.
Because we were getting to a point here where things were ticking along. It was getting a bit monotonous sort of running the game reserve from the day to day.
We need something new to do.
And essentially, that's what it came down to.
Head off.
But obviously there was context to it. You know, when coalition troops had moved into Kabul, they had found a zoo that was in awful condition as well, and there was obviously huge initiatives with places like North Carolina Zoo and the various aid agencies as well that stepped in. So, I mean, there was a bit of context to that, and Lawrence figured, well, maybe there's a zoo, and we sat around and we discussed it a bit over a few beers, and it got to a point where, I mean, we got quite excited about it. I mean, it was quite a big thing, you know, and Lawrence decided that he would go across first and see what was actually there. You know, we didn't really know there was a zoo there. You know, we were trying to find information, but obviously information out of Iraq at that stage was probably like trying to get information out of North Korea. And then it sort of kick-started, and we finally got a replacement here, and I went across there. You went from a degree in zoology with an emphasis in entomology, and now you're with the Endangered Wildlife Trust and KZN at the Wild Dog Project. What made you go from bugs to wild dogs? Essentially worked out, I mean, my interest has been in wildlife in general, and it just happened at some stage of studying, I mean, bugs was a thing. And I enjoyed it, and we're working at Tula. Obviously, there was a much broader management perspective, and then obviously a couple of years working in zoos, and then the opportunity came up to work for Endangered Wildlife Trust and do this wild dog work. Okay. So it was essentially something. It was an opportunity to get back into the bush. Yeah. And working with an endangered species is something I always wanted to do. So it kind of the two things came together, and the opportunity was there. Tula obviously doesn't have wild dogs. How do they fit back into the natural ecosystem here? They're a large predator. So I mean, they'll fit in terms of size. They're probably a little bit smaller than a spotted hyena, and so they'll take more sort of small to medium sized antelope. They're very efficient pack animals, and they'll take in this area probably in Yala and Pala and sorts of things. Yeah, which seem to be, I mean, swing a cat and you're going to hit one, so exactly. There's plenty of prey out there. Yeah. In the end, Brendan turned out to be a great substitute for Lawrence Anthony, and I'm grateful to him for giving us some time. Since we've been here, we've been on the hunt for Anthony's famous elephant herd, which he writes about in his book The Elephant Whisperer, and I got closer than I could have ever imagined. I've also gotten to know the staff and some of the local Zulu natives from the nearby village of Bukanana, and the whole experience has been much more powerful than I could have ever imagined.
have last day fever. The rangers say that about 86% of the people who leave here crying in tears, and I'll probably be one of those people. It's just been such an amazing country. It's an amazing continent. I didn't think I'd actually get this attached. I've done a lot of traveling and seen some amazing places, but without running the risk of sounding overly dramatic and romantic, I know people come out and say, oh, it's mystical and it's this and it's that, and but there is something that really draws you and it keeps you. There are a gazillion options when it comes to game drive safaris in South Africa. But I personally went with this one because the reserve does such good, practical work with conservation while doing its best to help the local people and communities. For more information on the Earth Organization and the eco-safaris, and to find your country's chapter, please visit www.earthorganization.org. And stay tuned to the Peregrine Dame for more new episodes coming from London and Bruges.